Okay, so 87B is a very simple way. I used to love this when I was in school to test if a graph is a function. Okay, and so we remember that in a couple lessons ago, we talked that a function is when we have an input or an x value that goes to one and only one output or y value. So one domain goes to one and only one y value, okay, and or range. All right, so if we see a graph and we're being asked, is this a function? There's a really simple way that we can test that. So right here, and this should go in your notes, the vertical line test. A graph on the coordinate plane represents the graph of a function provided that any vertical line intersects the graph at most one point. So make sure to write that in your notes. But what in the world does that mean? So if we look at this example, we have this example of it's a sine function, okay? And so you'll be learning about that in Algebra 2 and beyond. But you can see that it goes up and down, but it's slanted, okay? So if we draw these vertical lines, let me get my pen, my marker here. If we draw these vertical lines like this, the dotted, you see the dotted and the dotted. See how it only crosses the graph in one, at most one point? That tells us that this is a graph of a function because any input, any x value that I have on this graph only maps to one point. Any input only maps to one output range. So it's a function. Now in contrast, look at this example of a circle, right? We do our vertical lines right here and right here, and those are random. You could draw a vertical line really anywhere. So let me get my paper here. I could draw a vertical line right there. See, it crosses in two spots. Okay, so they just picked a couple vertical lines. So because it crosses in this point and also this point, it's telling us that our input at -2 here has two outputs. It's at 2 and also like -2 or a little bit beyond -2, a little bit beyond 2. But there's two outputs for this input of -2 on the x, okay? And anywhere on this circle, 0 has two outputs. It's at 3 and -3. So anytime there's more than one output, it is not a function. But this is a graph of a relation, okay? I'm going to turn the page now. Okay, so we have these examples right here, all right? So if we look at C, right, we're going to imagine our vertical lines. If you draw vertical lines, draw them in your imagination. You can draw it on your paper. They will only cross the graph at one place on each vertical line, so it is a function. It is a function. Now D, we draw these lines. Ooh, it's crossing the graph in two places. So it is not a function. Not a function there. Okay, down here, let's see. We're gonna draw our vertical lines, Now this gets a little tough because you're like, does this actually, right here, does this start to go vertically? No, it doesn't. This is a curve and it's going on to infinity in a very, very, very shallow way. So this is a function because if we draw our vertical lines, if we had this very, very, very tiny pen or something, we would see that it only crosses in one spot. So that's the vertical line test. Okay, so imagine your vertical lines to make sure that each one of your graphs will only cross, those vertical lines will only cross those graphs in one spot, and then it's a function. Okay, goodbye.